It is currently 6:30 in the morning. I'm getting picked up in 10 minutes to drive 2 hours to play in a road to Nats. Now, I played in one yesterday. I played Aurora yesterday, and I'll be playing Aurora again today, because this is actually the only chance that I will have to top and qualify for Nationals. So, we may see the series pivot if I get the same matchup spread that I got yesterday. It's time to open more Outsiders. So this week we were planning on opening History Pack to search for more like basic arrows and stuff like that, and the headpiece maybe. Honestly, the last game that we had with Enigma, we didn't win, but the Merkmeyer grapples made it feel like we're winning, so we're going back into here. We still have the playset of those, so I don't think we need them. Infecting Shot in yellow is something that we don't have. We only have it in blues and reds. We'll take a Widowmaker, that's not bad. This is a Ranger equipment. Mask of Malicious Manifestation. Action, put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck, destroy Mask of Malicious Manifestations, reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal an attack action card, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Now, I've been a hater on Target Totalizer for a while now, but I think treating it like a sort of ponder for a card with an aim counter is not terrible. So I don't know if we'd replace it with this, but it is block, so we could consider it. Short and sharp, backstab, spinning, a lot of assassin stuff. Yeah, mostly just assassin stuff in that one, to be honest. Pack 2. If we're not running the reds, we're not running the yellows of Ravenous. Come to fight. We already have the playset of Spire Sniping. Cut down to size, could be a decent, just generic 6, but I think we gotta do better than that. Blue Merkmeyer Grapple, pretty good. Threadbare Tunic. We could use this if we have a 1 cost in Arsenal just to fire off, because it says destroy Threadbare Tunic, gain a pitch, activate this ability only if you have no cards in hand. So imagine if you have to fully block out something you're stuck with a Sleep Down Arsenal, would still let you fire it off, so it could be okay for Guardians or something. It might though just do the same thing that the current chess piece, that I'm forgetting what it's called, does right now anyway. Lace with Frailties, we already have those in red. I wonder if we'd ever play Barbed Castaway. It would require a very different build from what we have now. We're not considering tokens as ones that we have to pull though. Backheel Kick. Yellow come to fight. Blue Wither. Yellow Skybound Shot, not falling for that trap. Feisty Focals, cut down to size. Twin Twisters. Malign. Just realized I said Feisty Focals, don't know what that is. Brush Off. Seeker's Hood. That's an opt, which we always want. But I don't know if we're going to pay 1 for a one-time use of Skullbone Cross Wrap. Plunge, Bleed Out, Spinning Wheel Kick, Brush Off. Yeah. Nothing great so far. There's only 3 packs. A red Widowmaker. That's a big number. We already have the playset Sedation Shots. We're also looking for Withering Shots if we can get them. I think we don't run enough blues to play Fisticuffs. I don't think that we can afford that attack reaction, really. Short and sharp, looking for a scrap. Amnesia! That's not a bad one at all. If we go against some Vin sets, it would be nice to throw this at them in the same way that we just kind of throw Command and Conquer. Definitely sideboard, but I think that's kind of playable. And also against ninjas too. I opened this pack terribly. Blue Widowmaker again. I think that might be our playset. Be Like Water, Scout the Periphery, a Blue Falcon Wing. Now we're not running it now, but it's one of those cards that if you get enough of what you're after, we could pivot. Razor's Edge, cut down to size, toxic tips. This is an attack reaction to create frailties, inertias, or pox with a block 1. I don't think that's better than the arm piece that we currently have, but it would be nice to be able to throw it at a warrior or something and hit them with a frailty. That would be not bad at all. Wreak Havoc, there we go. Oh, Gore Belching. That's our foil. When this attack, reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal an attack action card. If you do, banish it, and this gets -X, where X is the attack of the card banished this way. Probably not playable for us here, because we'd be most likely to hit an arrow, so that would be like a -5, so it's a red no block for 2. It's a card that's like ready to be good, it's just not good yet. Yellow Withering Shot. It's still frustrating that we're getting them only in yellows, but you know, we take them. A Red Falcon Wing. It's pretty good. Another Blood Rot Trap. That's pretty nice. And nothing else for us there. I don't think we're really hitting the Murkmire Grapples that we wanted. I thought it was a common. Maybe it's a rare, but... Yellow Infecting Shot. I don't think that we need it exactly in the yellows. I think we're good on blues and reds. We're definitely not going to play a blue Ravenous Rabble. It's just trying to dodge the frailty shots as much as it can. Pendulum Trap is not bad. When this defends and the attacking hero is played or activated attack reaction, put the top 2 cards of the deck into the graveyard. It's not as useful, I think, as Blood Rot Trap, because that is presenting a more imminent threat, but it definitely mills and you could hit something important. Sedate. Yeah. Alright, last one. Springlow. Blue Falcon Wing. Twin Twisters. Destructive Deliberation. Infect. Seek Horizon. I think I need to think harder if I want to play a Seek Horizon, but I kind of think that we are a bit past it. Prowl. Seeker's Gillet. Plunge. Do we want to play a Toxicity? I don't really think so. I think in the current Hunted format, this is more of an assassin card. Now that you can flick cards, you can flick your daggers, but I think we'd prefer just to buff it. You know, we use this space to put something, a Lace with Frailty or something like that in. Infectious Hope, Bleed Out. Okay, so having a look through, the Amnesia is definitely the hit of the day. It's not exactly what we're after, but playing against a Vinced or something is going to be really helpful. This is one of those cards that just gives Vinced a really bad time, along with every other card. But it can also help us against ninjas and things like that. It sort of dilutes the strategy is the problem. That's also something with Command & Conquer as well. We want to hit a point where our deck is just so good as a ranger deck that we don't need to play these 6 attack generics, but I think for now it's definitely going to help us in some bad matches. The Blood Rot Trap I also really quite like. The Resident Dorinthia player is back at Armoury now, so having more traps is going to be useful. Gore Belching is pretty, but I don't think we're going to be using it. We did only hit 1 Murkmire Grapple, and it's a blue, which is a bit frustrating, but we still will include it in some way. I don't think we'll be using the mask. I don't think that we need it. We'll take the Pendulum Trap as well, and a Yellow Withering is helpful, but not exactly great. Now, I want to really quickly chat about Brush Off. This is not going to go in now, but the instant prevention, if the meta just becomes so Syndra focused around me, it might need to just go in, you know? Being able to just have that sort of prevention might be important. Perhaps we run into blues instead of reds, but it's a little bit cope. So, not exactly as good as the first time that we went into this pack, but it's not bad by any means. I definitely think it's workable. We'll see how the deck changes. Alright, for the deck this week, there's honestly not too many changes, so we'll go through it pretty quickly. We've had bigger weeks of change before. The equipment has not changed. Besides a common arm piece from History Pack, I think the main thing that is going to change our equipment is going to be Majestics or Legendaries. So unfortunately we might need to get used to that for a little while. For our non-attacks, triple Knock the Death Whistle, triple Lace with Blood Rot, Lace with Inertia, and Lace with Frailty. These ones are not going anywhere. You're going to see them every single week. But have you ever noticed that this doesn't say Lace with Blood Rot? It says Lace with Blood Root. This is just like a thing from the Azalea Armoury deck. In Outsiders, it's how it's meant to be, Lace with Blood Rot. But I think there was a quality control issue thing going on at the time. It was a rough couple of years. Premeditate, still really strong. Point the Tip, I'd love to replace Point the Tip with Premeditates, but you know, you get what you get. 3 Line It Up. Now, the 1 cost is starting to hurt us, I think. I think we want to start leaning more into a much more red line sort of thing. So the 0 cost buffs for free are much more enticing than this 1 cost buff for 3, just because it can give a aim counter conditionally, I think is a bit rough. So we'll look at rotating these ones out next, but for now it's good enough to stay in. Speaking of 0 cost buffs though, 3 red Read the Glide Path, 3 yellow, and 1 blue, and our Codex of Frailty. For our attacks, 3 Sedation Shot, 3 red Infecting, and 3 blue Infecting, a yellow, and a blue Withering. So I think we want to start leaning more towards just only having red cards, and a few blues where we need it. Really good Azalea decks often have like 9, 6, or I've even seen tops with Azalea decks that only have 3 blues in them, so you're really trying not to pay for anything wherever you can. So I think we want to make sure that we can get rid of the yellows and perhaps in the future the blues, but for now it's what we've got. We've got 3 Drill Shot, 3 red Sleep Dart. We've taken out the blue for the reasons explained before. We want to lower our blue count so that we don't really have to pay for anything. 3 Stone Rain, 3 Spire Sniping Yellow, and 3 Spire Sniping Blue, 3 red Bolton Shot, red in the Ledgers, and Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer still feels a bit funny to run. We're hoping to get rid of it eventually. It's a great card, it's just I don't want to be diluting our strategy any more than we have to. For our sideboard, new, lovely, shiny Amnesia. It fills a similar role that Command and Conquer does. It's a 2 for 6, 3 block that really is just more of a situational sort of thing. Perhaps you could argue that Command and Conquer should instead just live in the sideboard, but it's good enough in every matchup that it can live here for now. Amnesia, meanwhile, needs to live in the sideboard for more Rune Blades and Ninjas. Give and take, we got a sexy play off it last week against Enigma, so I'm just going to chase that high again, to be honest. We've got a red Murkmire Grapple, 2 yellows, and a blue. This is a real funny spread. I was really hoping to just go for the 3 reds, perhaps 3 blues as well if we felt like our Illusionist matchup was just that bad. It's just such an important sideboard card right now that we don't have an option. 2 blue Widowmakers. Now we've swapped a red for a blue here because I think this is a card that's only going to matter on 2nd or even 3rd cycle when the card economy is so lean that we just need it. We're not realistically going to be pitching that red one. It's just too easy for them to put 2 cards in front of it, whereas if you save it for end game, then those 2 cards become so much more important. 2 Blood Rot Trap, where it says Blood Rot correctly. Inertia Trap, Barbed Undertows in the sideboard now. It really just never came up, to be honest. It's really strong, but like it doesn't come up. We're going to keep it in the sideboard so that we can use it on decks that we know are running certain colors, like the Mistveil heroes running blues, for example. You can stop them from pitching Chi, which will stop them from activating their abilities and that sort of thing. Really good against Zen in that case, but it's also like, if you're playing against Zen, wouldn't you be better off searching for Red Ledger anyway? Red Fatigue Shot, we've taken out the yellow. We're starting to get to the point that our arrows are better that we don't need to be running the yellows, so we're going to stick with just the one red, but we will be going back to Everfest to look for more. Red Searing Shot, Razor Reflex, and Fate4Seen. We've taken out the yellow Fate4Seen so that we can swap it for a Blood Rot Trap. I think it's just better, you know. Deck's made. Armoury time. Smash cut. Let's go.
And then when I break the chain, I'll go up to 3, and then I have another set of puppetry, and I'll do it again. We're going to play 3 every boss. Yes. Usually, yes. I do need to start getting stuff, like anything. One of them's unpredictable. Sorry, I'll let you know. I don't have stuff.
Our first match of the night is against Bravo, and I think Bravo for us is actually kind of similar to Assassin, that we're both presenting turn-breaking on-hit effects, it's just presented in a different way. They won the die roll and chose to go first, to which they play out a Showtime, searching for a Chokeslam then arsenaling. If Chokeslam hits us for 4 or more, our arrows won't be able to buff that turn, and considering our best turns are just presenting one huge number, I think we need to think of a way how to prepare for it. On our turn we use a Read the Glide Path to opt the top card of our deck, which is a blue Infecting Shot. We already have a red Infecting Shot in Arsenal, but we actually choose to Azalea into it anyway, because Bravo often likes blocking out and playing one card a turn, especially because this Bravo is running a shield instead of Anathos, implying a more defensive build. We also want to filter our hand a little bit, and by Azaleaing into the blue, we can pay for an aim counter off Crow's Nest, which effectively makes it a yellow. This does hit, and they take a little damage, but they come back with a Spinal Crush. This isn't dominated, but we are going to be forced to put cards in front of it, which is the last thing we want to be doing. It was a very arrow heavy hand though, so it's not the best hand for us on our turn anyway. I think it's going to be real bad for our deck when the Guardian Mastery pack comes out, because there's already so many cards that can just on hit end our turns before they even start. There's Spinal Crush, Crippling Crush, Chokeslam, but possibly the worst is actually a Dominated Starstruck, which does completely stop us from playing any arrows if it does more than 4 damage. We block with an arrow and equipment and take 5, meaning the only card we can play is Command and Conquer when they don't even have an arsenal. Look, if we didn't have this Command and Conquer, the turn would just be passing, so I'll take what I can get here. But the follow-up turn is Arouse the Ancients into Warmonger's Diplomacy. Maybe the haters are right when they say Flesh and Blood is a zero-sum fun game. We can't say anything though, because we're playing Azalea. When we do get our next turn, we shoot off a Dominated Drill Shot for 13, which is damage for sure, but I also don't really know what on-hits we need to win this game. Bravo or Guardians really aren't as affected by arrow on hits as most other classes, so we're instead just trying to present number. That's what makes it really annoying that we have to bend over backwards to make 13, and Bravo can just play Pulverize for 14 in one card. This is for sure hitting, and it's not a crush effect, it's an on hit, so there's no way that we could have blocked this out. Our first attack of the turn is going to have -4, which is our Bolt and Shot coming in for 6 from 2 Lace with Inertias, which is okay for a pulverized turn, but Bravo quickly wraps this one up by playing Rouse the Ancients followed into a Tear Asunder on an Hammer to make it 5 Dominate, which we're not going to be able to block, and Bravo takes the first game of the night. Our game 2 is against Syndra, the deck that has been absolutely tearing up the format lately. There was a time in Monarch meta where Azalea pre-Outsiders was secretly kind of a good deck against Chain, the dominant go-wide deck at the time, just because of Red and Ledger. So if we channel some of that energy here, we're secretly kind of favoured into a top deck. We won the die roll, and of course we're choosing to go second because we know that Syndra would choose to go second in a heartbeat. They only Arsenal a card, which is the classic I'm an aggro deck and I was forced to go first move, but it lets us on our first turn play a buffed Bolton shot, reload, then shoot into a Sleep Dart. Sleep Dart will prevent them from recovering their daggers, so they have to be way more careful with them, and I imagine that it took some heat off us in the next turn. They do unfortunately finish their turn with a Warmonger's Diplomacy, since they almost only play attacks, and while we were planning to knock into a Red in the Ledger, we can still shoot our Arsenal Arrow and buff it with Razor Reflex, so we're still keeping up the damage on a turn that we might not otherwise have been able to do anything. We're also learning our lesson about arsenaling non-attack actions in decks that can play Warmonger's Diplomacy, so we get around it here by just playing the arrow. Our next turn we can flip our Red in the Ledger in Arsenal with hidden agendas to gain a pitch, searching for another Red in the Ledger off Knock the Death Whistle, then cycle into it buffed and dominated, which is a really roundabout way to get there, but because of the hidden agenda pitch, we don't need to pitch to fire the Red in the Ledger, so it actually lets us play out our whole hand or hold on to a card to Arsenal. It does keep them off their next turn and lets us play with a full hand. Because we have an arrow we want to fire in hand, we can afford to Azalea blind here, and if it's an arrow, we'll have it dominated, and if it's not, we can use the buff to just increase damage. Luckily it's a sedation shot, and with 3 buffs we have all the damage we need to win our second game. Syndra has been a really dominant aggressive format over the road to Nat season, but I feel actually quite favoured into it because we have such a silver bullet in Red and Ledger, so it's a little bit one note, but as long as we can focus on getting that out, we will have favour into a very dominant top deck this format. Finally, we are against Arachne Marionette, or Mario if you want to go that route, but I don't want to, so. New Arachne is the most aggressive of the assassins at the moment, which is good and bad. It's good that they're worse at blocking, but bad that we need to watch out for more on hits each turn. To be honest though, I think our on hits are better than on hits from Marked 9 times out of 10. Marked on hits often banish cards either from hand or arsenal, whereas ours are more focused on turning your turn into a nothing burger. I almost don't want to upgrade to a tunic at this point because I feel so red pilled on hidden agendas to flip spire sniping. I think in a constructed Azalea, if you had access to cross wrap and tunic, it wouldn't be so bad because you could still have the effect of flipping and opting, but it makes it like a pair combo, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pull 2 legendaries in time. We're kind of stretching it to be able to pull 1, but from flipping spire sniping, we can Azalea into a blue withering shot and fire 12 dominators, giving 2 frailties and a blood rot. Their comeback is Bonds of Agony, which we 3-card block, then they play Mark of the Widow, which we also have to block, otherwise we lose our last card regardless. This is going to be our off turn, which I'm fine with, but their next turn, after marking us with pain in the backside, they can use Take Up the Mantle, which is the new attack reaction from Hunters. Sometimes they print a card that almost just does what it takes a whole hero power to do. We splay out a hand, and literally as soon as they see it, they pick Red in the Ledger and banish it along with the other copy from our deck. Okay, so that's not great, but we have been through worse, and I think that we have the resilience and resources in deck to push through it. Because life totals are getting low for both of us, we're in a loop of trading cards, but we do see Stone Rain, which, with our arm piece, is such a perfect card to have in a 2-card hand. We play our inertia buff from Arsenal to free that space and break our arms, loading the Stone Rain with an aim counter, giving it dominate and temporarily banishing a card from hand on hit. Although I feel like every time we buff Stone Rain, it's from Lace with Inertia, which is the worst one to have just because of how this game is built. Arachne will block with their mask, turning into Arachne Redback, which is discard an assassin card for +3 and go again. And because we have more health, we'd rather take the damage than be forced to banish a card, like how Black Widow or something could. We go to 2, but a good hand can win us this game if we play it right. We shoot a dominated Sleep Dart for 11, which takes Arachne to 1, which is Just so frustratingly close. But they are asleep for a turn, have a frailty, and we can arsenal a trap. So we're not in a bad spot for the next turn, but it does get really close from here. They can play double Orb Weaver Spinneret, which is the action that lets them equip a Graphene Chalicera, and because we're marked, it's going to have Go again. We can 2-card block since it's weaker from the frailty we gave them, but they follow with Leave No Witnesses, which is going to take another 2 cards so that we don't die. We arsenal our Read the Glide Path, and suddenly we're on the back foot again. We're forced to block with 3 cards next turn, risking them having an attack reaction, which they don't have, so we do get to play with 2 cards. So quick summary of the situation, we can Azalea here, and if it's literally any arrow, the Dominate alone is enough to let us win. Otherwise Arachne can win with attrition from having daggers and Go again on his first attack. The only out they would have is if their arsenal was a defense reaction, which, because I'm from the future, I know it wasn't, but in the end we do flip it, and we see a yellow Read the Glide Path. I really wanted to believe here, I really wanted. But from here, Arachne can clean up and takes us out with 2 attack reactions, and we lose probably the closest game we've ever had so far. I wanted to start editing and then I realized I forgot to record the outro, so let's do that. I think it's fair to say that it's been a pretty eventful week. Our Azalea games were really good. This really actually probably was one of our best weeks at Armoury, but unfortunately we're gonna need to face the fact that we are not going to be able to make it to Nationals this year. I won't go into too much detail, but it does sting to make it super close in the qualifier and then fall just short in the quarterfinals. I do, however, have it from pretty good authority that there will be a calling in the North Island in August, probably Auckland. So the reason that we chose Nationals in the first place is that it was just the only competitive event that we could guarantee was going to happen, but at the time we didn't know if there would be a calling. Now that we know that there actually is one, it's actually going to be better to pivot to calling as a goal because the video wouldn't be broken up by 3 to 6 rounds of draft, so it's a blessing in disguise. If the calling's not constructed, like it's sealed or something, there's a 90% chance that there will be a CC Battle Harden the next day, so we'd be happy to just drop out and play in that instead, and that is just more time to open packs. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for watching.